parshios Lech Lecha, right at the end of Shlishi.
Okay.
It's on page 58 if you're here on the Stone edition.
Okay.
I'm sorry, at the end of Revi, which is on page 64. At the end of Revi, Pasuk Chaf.
Okay. First, okay.
So there's a story about a war of 4 kings and 5 kings, and the 4 kings win. Stein Valmeida loses, and Lloyd and his family is captured, so they're in trouble. Avraham finds out. He goes out against the kings with a war, and he wins, which is miraculous. He has a very small group with him, maybe even just one person, him and Eliezer. So they had, according to the Gemara, there was a special sand that he used, that he would throw, and turned into arrows, and he was able to vanquish 4 kings, the powerful kings. The Torah describes at great length the entire war, and that's the entire Aliyah of Revi, and that's Perek Yudalad. The entire Perek Yudalad is the story of this war, from Pasuk Aleph to Chaf, and in Pasuk Chaf, after he wins the war, he passes through the city. He's all the way, comes from Damascus. He comes down through the city of Yerushalayim to the city of Sholem. Then it was called the city of Sholem. Umalki Tzedek, look at Pasuk Yudches. Umalki Tzedek Melech Sholem. Malki Tzedek, the king of the city of Sholem, which is Yerushalayim. Who is Malki Tzedek? Rashi says, Shem ben Noach. Hoitzi lechem v'yayin, he brought out bread and wine. V'hu chayin le'el elyon, and he was a priest to the Keil Elyon, to the Eibishter, not Avodah Zarah, to Keil Elyon, to the Eibishter. V'yevorcheyu, and Malki Tzedek blessed him. Who did he bless? Avraham Avinu. So Shem ben Noach, who is Malki Tzedek, blesses Avraham Avinu v'yomer. Baruch Avraham leKeil Elyon. Let him be blessed again to Keil Elyon. Keil Elyon is the Eibishter. Koine Shemayim v'Oretz, the one who acquires heaven and earth. Baruch Keil Elyon. And another bracha is to the Eibishter. Hashem migen tzarecha b'yadecha. He delivered the enemies into your hand. Vayitin le ma'aser mikoil, and he gave him ma'aser 10% of everything.
Can I ask you a question? Yeah. These 9
Page
kings.
64.
These 9 kings were all bad, right?
Yeah.
They're all bad.
Yeah.
So why is he blessing Avraham for here? They're all bad.
He's blessing Avraham. Rashi says, really the 4 kings that he vanquished were really descendants of Shem. So he told them that he's not upset because they're Rishoyim, and he did the right thing by killing them. But the bottom line is he blessed him. He blessed him. He gave him a brocha. He said, you see the Eibishter's on your side. For whatever reason, Avraham Avinu went out in war, and they became his enemies, and he was victorious, so he blessed them. Vayomer melech Sodom el Avraham. The king of Sodom said, Ten li nefesh, give me the people, arachush kach lov, the spoils of war, the booty, keep for yourself. Vayomer Avraham says, nope. Avraham declares, he says to the king of Sodom, Harimoisi yodei la Hashem keil elyon koine shemayim v'oretz imachut atzrochnal v'mekechem kol hashaloch v'losemer ani yasharti es Avraham. I lift my hand to Hashem, God the Most High, maker of heaven and earth, if so much as a thread of a shoe strap, or if I shall take from anything yours, you shall not say, it is I who made Avraham rich.
Right. But he did take from Mitzrayim.
Okay. Let's learn Rashi.
This is the tzitzis and film that we do because of this.
Yeah.
pasuk.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Pasuk Chof. So let's look at the second column. You see Ramaz Lala Manochas and the Sachab Shekriv Leibonov, Kenish Mavaretz, Kumeis Shamavarets, this is economy Shaloi. Right? The second line, the last three words, Asher Migain, Asher Hizgir, Vechenam Again, Yisrael. And the third line is Vayitein Lo. You see? The third line at the end of the line. Vayitein Lo, what's the next word?
Masa.
No. Vayitein Lo, you see the second column? In the Rashi, the third line from the top? Avram. Meiser Mikoil, Asher Loi, Lefisha Hoyakoil. So, what is Rashi saying here? Vayiten Loi Avram. Isn't that obvious that Avram gave it to him? And what is he saying? Meiser Mikoil Asher Loi. He gave his stuff for Meiser. What would you think? Avram stole the other guy's stuff and gave it for Meiser? So,
You know, Rashi answer if you share a coin.
yeah. And what is Rashi saying? What's Rashi saying? So the truth is that there is a machloikis here. Who gave who? Because if you read the psukim, it's not so clear who gave who. It says that Malki Tzedek comes out, he brings bread and wine, and he blesses Avraham Avinu. And he says,
It seems like
blessed is Avraham Avinu.
It seems like more that the king giving a one. He's
Exactly.
giving him a brocha, plus he give him meiser.
Right.
So a coin doesn't have to give a meiser to his soul, from the opposite.
Oh. So you're asking two questions, opposite questions. But from the Pasuk, it's not clear who's giving who. Malki Tzedek is giving a blessing to Avraham Avinu.
yeah.
He blesses, as then he says, Baruch Avram, blessed is Avram. Asher migen sorecha biyodecha, who delivered the enemy in your hand. Vayiten loy, and he gave it. Who gave to who?
Or we could say is because he giving this brocha, so Vayitan lo, he is giving back. Avram Avinu giving back for the brocha, meiser mikol.
Right. So because there's a machloikis, who gave who? Some say Avram Avinu didn't give anything. So therefore Rashi says, Vayiten loy, Avram is the one that gave. And maybe because that's why the Rashi also quotes the word Vayiten loy. Because earlier in the pasuk, if it was really Shem that gave it to him, why does it have to say Vayiten loy? Vayiten. We know already who was giving who. He gave him bread, he gave him wine, he gave him a blessing, and then he gives him meitzah. So Rashi says, no, Vayiten loy is now is the opposite. Not till now Shem was giving Avraham Avinu. He gave him bread, he gave him wine, he gave him a blessing. This is all from Shem to Avraham Avinu. Vayiten loy, in turn, Avram gives him also something which is Maisa Mikoil. What's Maisa Mikoil? So there's a machloikas here. As we'll soon see.
Wait, I don't understand. Malki Tzedek was shame?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really? Where does it say?
Rashi says that earlier. Rashi
Tzedek.
says Malki Tzedek,
Ben Noach.
Hu Shem Bein Noach.
Oh, wow.
It's the first column, the last two lines. So some commentaries say that Shem was the Kohen. Why was he the Kohen? Remember from last week? That it says that Noach brought an offering on the Mizbeach. But according to the Medrash, Noach couldn't bring the offering. Why couldn't Noach bring the offering?
It was a move.
Hutzaleya. He became a Balmum from the lion who broke his leg. So really Shem was the Kohen. Now when Avram came to Shem, he took the kahuna from him and he gave it over to Avram Avinu. Okay. Now according to Rashi,
that's why Avram would giving.
no, that's why he gave to Avram.
So, but he already gave him bread and he already gave him wine. Why do you have to
He gave him Maisa because he gave him the kahuna. To prove that he gave him the kahuna, he gave him Maisa. Not according to Rashi. Rashi's saying no, that's wrong. That's what Rashi has to say.
It doesn't make sense, really, like-
That Avram gave to Shem, not Shem to Avram, because a lot of commentaries say that really Shem gave to Avram.
And could we say, I'm thinking, that now that the Malki Tzedek gave him bread and wine, so now Avram Avinu have stuff, he's giving Maisa from this to the Kohen. It's kind of a dochak, but
That's
Can you give the kahuna to somebody?
that's what some Meforshim say. That Shem gave it to him.
Can you give it? Can you give it?
Well, I assume when he gave it was as an Ovi. The Abisha told him to give it, not that he did it on his own. If he gave it on his own, that would be a joke. He was a big tzaddik, he was an Ovi. The Abisha told him. Just like his
make Avram a Kohen.
just like we see that his grandson Avid Shem and Eva, Yeshiva Shem. Eva was a big tzaddik. He knew the future. He named his children, like we spoke about the Shabbos, Yokta and Chatzamos. He knew what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, prophecy.
Pasuk Chof, Rashi Pasuk Chof. Yudalit Pasuk Chof. Okay. So, and this, what's Maisa Mikoil? So there's a machloikis. What did he give him? Did he give him from the Shlal HaMalchama? Or did he give him from his own wallet? Kol HaShaloi, from his own wallet. What did he give? So some saying that, most Mefarshim saying Rashi, that Mikol HaShaloi, he took out his wallet, and he counted up how much cash he has, and he took 10% and gave it Meiser to Malki Tzedek. And the other Mefarshim say no, he took the Malkoyach and the Shvi, he took the booty of the war, and he took 10%, and that he gave away.
So kol is the word here, maybe.
Yeah. So the Mizrahi says Perek Yudalad Pasuk Chof. Mizrahi says that it's a very strange pasuk here. It says Vayitel Ma'isa Mikoil. What do you mean Ma'isa Mikoil? Mikoil Asher B'Bayis,
And not what?
Mikoil Asher Ba'ir, Mikoil Asher B'Soda, Mikoil Asher B'Kis. The pasuk is not finishing. It's like the pasuk is stuck midway. Vayitel Ma'isa Mikoil. Mikoil what? Mikoil Asher B'Bayis and Mikoil Asher Ba'ir. Mikoil Asher B'Kis. Mikoil what? That's what Rashi says. Mikoil Asher Loi.
And that's also Rashi doesn't answer. Mikol Asher Lo also. It's like if we Tavaitel Lo Maisa. That's it. Without the word war.
Yeah.
Mikol. It's the same thing.
So to understand what Rashi is saying, so let's go into a little thing that the Rebbe has, and then we'll go back to this Rashi, and you'll see very clearly what Rashi is trying to say.
But wait a minute, what's wrong with saying Mikol Asher Lo, 10% of everything he had, totally? Of non-concept for Megan. He gave, so it's clear.
Some Mefarshim say that too.
No,
So some Mefarshim say Mikol Asher Lo, Rashi means.
Mikol
I
Asher
said,
Lo.
you're right.
Why would he give it then?
Black
Why would he
and white.
tell you that he gave it then?
Because
You're
they
right.
give him bread and
This
wine,
I don't
and
know,
they
but
give
it's
him
clear what
There's
it
three
is.
opinions in Rashi. Rashi meant from the stuff that he got at the war, or Rashi meant the stuff in his wallet. The third shot is like you said, from everything.
The way you said
Yeah,
it
he wasn't.
Mikol
He
Asher
didn't have
Lo.
everything
Why
with
should
him.
it?
Okay, so
Why
now
should
we'll
we
see
say
why.
different
Now
than
we'll
that?
say why.
So Rashi
The Rambam says in the beginning of Hilchas Malachim Perek Tes, he says that the Eibishter gave Avraham Avinu mitzvahs, starting already from other Menishim. He gave him 6 mitzvahs. Noach got a 7th mitzvah. Avraham Avinu got the mitzvah of Mila, and he was metaken the tefillah of Shacharis. Yitzchak gave Maisen. He was metaken the tefillah of Mincha. And Yaakov Avinu kept the mitzvah of Gidanosha. And he was metaken the tefillah of Maidev. And Amram received more mitzvahs of Mitzrayim. And the Moshe Rabbeinu completed the Torah by Matan Torah. So that Ivid has an argument. Ivid says, what are you telling me? Yitzchak gave Maiser? Avraham Avinu gave Maiser. Vayitan Loi Maiser Mikoil. What are you telling me? Yitzchak gave Maiser, Avraham Avinu gave Maiser. And the truth is that lcho that Ivid is right. The Mefarshim say, well, because Yitzchak also gave Maiser. Because Yitzchak, it says that Vayimtza b'shana he me'ah shorim. And Rashi brings Chazal and the Gemara and Chulin that they measured, they estimated how much will be in the field. Why did they make an estimation? He wanted to know how much Maisris to give. So we see that he gave Maisris. So even if that's true, that there's a Gemara like this about Yitzchak, it doesn't say Mefurish in the Pasuk. But Avraham Avinu it says Vayitan Loi Maisa Mikoil. He gave Maisa. So number one, Avraham is first, and number two, it's a Mefurish Pasuk Vayitan Loi Maisa Mikoil. He gave the Maisa. So what are you talking about? Yitzchak was Metaken Maisa. Avraham Avinu gave Maisa.
Actually, Esav was Metaken Meiser. Because he asked.
Esav comes later. Avraham Avinu goes before. We're trying to say who's the first one.
Right.
True. So now our Mefarshim will say that no, the machlokas here is who gave who. That Avram gave to Shem, or Shem gave. It's a machlokas in the Rambam and the Ravid. The Rambam says no, Avram never gave anything. Shem gave. He gave away the whole kahuna, and he gave everything away. So the Rebbe says it's a very nice pshat, but it doesn't answer the question against the Rambam. So say shame, but still, Yitzchak is not the first one. You're telling me that Yitzchak was the first one. Esav is not the first one. Yitzchak is not the first one. Okay, Avraham Avinu is not the first one. So Shem Ben Noach is the first, but still, it doesn't answer the kasha in the Rambam. That's one pshat. Second pshat, Mefarshim say that there is.
What does that explain again?
They want to say the Rambam says that Avraham Avinu was matak in Ma'aseh.
Right.
The Ravid said Yitzchak Avinu was matak in Ma'aseh. So they say, because the Rambam holds that Avraham Avinu never gave Ma'aseh, Shem Ben Noach gave the Ma'aseh. So the Rebbe asked, okay, Shem Ben Noach gave it. Still, but Yitzchak is still not the first. Whoever gave it, Avraham or Shem Ben Noach, either way they're before Yitzchak.
Right.
So why are you telling me that Yitzchak is the one that introduced Ma'aseh? It's a pushta kasha. It's like...
What if when they brought the carbonas, the two sons of
Kind of level.
wasn't that also shtickle meiser there? Because they were giving up to the Eibush.
They gave karbonas. I don't know if it's Ma'aseh.
It wasn't meiser.
Right, he gave karbonas and he gave chelbehen, but Ma'aseh not.
It wasn't meiser.
Right.
It was from their fruits.
Not only that, but it's interesting. It's a stam that Rashi brings here that he brought out bread as an emes for the menachos because it was in Yerushalayim, and it was an emes that his children are going to have the mitzvah of menachos. So a few meforshim, it's not pshat shemikra, it's not a nice word. They say, why did they bring meramas for menachos? He should have brought out a goat and sheep to meramas the karbonas. That in this place in Yerushalayim there's going to be karbonas. So he says no, because karbonas was always karbonas. What korban is really to machaper and achet. Some karbonas are for loyta say, some for maseh, but in general karbonas are machaper for achet. It doesn't show so much how much the Eibishter loves the Yidden. But menachos, usually there was a yitzchak klal soita which was sa'odim, but otherwise all menachos are nedovis. So that's nothing to do with the sin or shvuas shnei alechem. So he wanted to be meramas and the avad that the Eibishter has to Yidden. So but anyway, to back to your kasha. No, it wasn't a special thing of Ma'aseh. Lcho they gave a korban to the Eibishter. But here we're talking about the tikkun of Ma'aseh. Okay, so that's the first.
There is a
chapter.
measure that said that they took from their best. That the reason why Cain was jealous was because Hevel took from the best of his crop.
Yeah, good. Mina mufcher. So he did the idea of
You
mina
see, there was a
mufcher.
site, but that is a me'ain
It's
of
true.
Ma'aseh.
It is a me'ain. And the Rambam brings that whenever you give tzedakah, and he brings it also in the end of
Give your
Hilchas
best.
in Hilchas Ma'aseh.
Right.
He brings, and we learned that from Hevel. Still, Mefurish didn't bring. The Fedish is not Ma'aseh.
But the Rambam brings it.
The Rambam brings it. Legabe Ma'aseh. When he talks about Ma'aseh, and then he says that there's the end, the beautiful thing, that then he says that you have to bring the best. And how do we know the best? From Hevel. Good. So that's one thing. Second thing is that the Mefarshim say that what's the idea of Ma'aser? There's Ma'aser Ksofim and Ma'aser Karka. Money, most shittas hold that the money that you take 10% is only the Rabbanon. If you want to do the mitzvah of Ma'aser Minatoyer, it's only Gedule Karka, only things that grow from the ground.
We can't really do that.
Me and you, we live here in America, how can we do that? You have to be a farmer in Israel to be able to do.
You have to be
Huh?
a farmer in Israel.
You have to be a farmer in Israel.
You can't do any Ma'aseh in
They
America.
had a few years ago. I saw them advertise. I didn't see them lately. You can be it's a way of collecting money, I guess. Yeah, a shutaf in a farm in Eretz Yisrael. They're going to do everything. They're even going to raise a chamoy over there and do petah chamoy. They're going to have bechor and they're going to have petah chamoy. And they're going to have trumas and maises. They're going to do whatever, like 7, 8 out of all the Chav Dalet Matnas.
How much are you going to pay?
I don't remember. They were advertising all over in Amidia. And a few years ago, I don't see them advertise anymore.
Just this year they advertised for being a part of the Shemitah.
Shemitah is a legitimate thing.
Yeah, that's right.
But this was saying that you'll be a part of some type of co-op, and they're going to do all the
It was
mitzvahs.
recently, it was last year.
Yeah, you also, yes.
I got letters. I got mailings.
So it's a good. I thought
They
it
had me
was.
going.
Yeah, they got you.
No, I forgot. I was going to ask somebody if it's type you could be
Legitimate or
Could you
just
be
like-
yoitza?
could
Right.
you be yoitza?
When you give the Shemrei Shemitah, you're surely there's no shaila because it's an amazing thing. You're allowing Shemitah to happen, but this I don't know. Hakaponim, but the truth is, the only Ma'aser which is Chayiv Min HaTorah is Gedulei Karka. So by Yitzchak, it was Gedulei Karka because it was by Avraham Avinu, it wasn't Gedulei Karka. But that's a little bit of a shver because here we're not. The Rambam is not going. The Rambam says that the Ovis kept all the Torah, even Eruvet Tafshilin, which is Eruvet Tafshilin is a mitzvah derabanan. So even if it was, what's the difference if it was a deraisa derabanan? The bottom line is that the idea of Maasros was first introduced by Avraham Avinu. So still a shvache teretz. The Rebbe gives a third teretz, a very nice teretz. The Rebbe's teretz is simple. We find when they won the war against Midian, they came back, and there was a special tax that was supposed to give to the Eibishter. A meches, exactly. It's a special meches. A special meches that they gave. And the Torah tells at great length how they split it in half, and the people of the war, the soldiers paid a smaller meches, the rest of the people paid a higher meches. There was clearly a meches, a tax. So, here, Avraham Avinu comes back. The Rambam holds, the Rebbe says like this. If you read the pasuk according to the Rambam, it would go like this. Look at pasuk Chaf. And blessed is the Eibishter who delivered the enemies into your hand. And he gave him Meiser Mikoil. What does Mikoil mean, like the Mazrach?
Everything that he got.
Exactly. Mikoil Asher Migen. Baruch Keilan, blessed is the Eibishter, Asher Migen Tzarecha B'Yodecha. Shem Ben Noach said, Baruch the Eibishter, blessed is the Eibishter who delivered the enemies in your hand. So you know what Avraham Avinu said? You know what? From all that you just said, that the Eibishter delivered the enemy in my hand, so you know what? All that booty that the Eibishter delivered in my hand, I'm giving you Meiser. That's the way that Rambam would read it. If that's the way that Rambam would read it, I understand why the Rambam doesn't think that this is the regular din of Meiser, because that was a Yotzim Raklal. That's not the regular Meiser that we're talking about. That tzedakah that they gave when they came out of the war, we don't find, if you look in Hilchas Rambam, Hilchas Malachim, you don't find a special mitzvah that when you come back from war, that there's a special, it was Ayroz Shah, was when they did the Midian, or this war, Shem Ben Noach said, Baruch Kelailin, Hashem Migan Tzarecha B'Yedecha, he gave the enemy in your hands, so Avraham said, you know what, this enemy, I'm taking 10%, I'm giving to you. That's not the regular Maisa that we give. That's not the regular Maisa that we give. This is a yoitzim in a club.
He was introducing the mitzvah of Maaseh in the Torah.
Because it's not. Because there was one more time in history when there was a yoitzim in a klal, when there was such a type of tax on the stuff. And afterwards, we don't find that mitzvah should be a mitzvah noeg l'doides. It's befedish not a mitzvah that's noeg l'doides. It's befedish not a mitzvah that's noeg l'doides. Chazal understood that was a one-time thing, and it's not a law that became part of halachas of Torah Shabbat. It's in Torah Shabbat. There's a story of Midian, and it happened once. So Rambam says it also happened one more time by Avraham Avinu, but it wasn't something that he started off the mitzvah of Maaseh. That's what the Rambam holds. But the Ravid perhaps holds, says the Rebbe like Rashi. What does Rashi say? Rashi says, Vayita loy Meiser mikol asher loy. Not from the booty, not from the shalal ha-melchama. The Rashi says, Vayita loy Meiser mikol asher loy. Rashi is trying to tell you not like the Rambam. Don't say that he gave 10%, because even though you might think that the pasuk reads that way.
Well, why would it say it here? Like out of place then.
Right. So that's why Rashi adds 3 words. That's why Rashi says, Lefisha Yakoyan. Because he was a Kohen. So usually he lived far away. Avraham Avinu didn't live next to Yerushalayim. Halach v'naseh Negba, he lived in the Negev. He didn't live close to Yerushalayim. So now he was running after the Malachim. And he won the war. And on the way back from the war, he traveled through Yerushalayim. And Malkit Tzedek came to greet him. He says, now I met the Kohen, I'm going to give it to him.
So it doesn't
But
mean that's what's supposed to be done. But that doesn't mean that that's what's supposed to be done.
No.
He was a nice guy.
But the Ravid, that's why the Ravid, no, that's what the Rebbe is saying. The Rambam, the Ravid holds like Rashi. Vayitel Ma'aseh Mekoil means Mekoil Asher Loi, Lefisha Yakoyan. That there was from his pocket, he took out his wallet. So Taka, that's why the Ravid hold, the first man that introduced Ma'aseh is Avraham Avinu. It says Vayitel Ma'aseh Mekoil. Mashenke in the Rambam says no, Vayitel Ma'aseh Mekoil doesn't mean Mekoil Asher Loi. It means Mekoil Asher Migen. Mikoil goes on the words Hashemigain, Mikoil from all the spoils of the war. So that's the machlekes. Because the Rambam holds Vayitan loy ma'aser Mikoil means that he gave him a special tax from the milchama. So, so how could you learn from here that Avraham Avinu gave ma'aser? It's a special yotzim min haklal.
Why is it yotzim min haklal? Why is the booty yotzim min haklal?
Because we never find later that it should be halacha that when you go out in war that there's a special tax only by Midian.
Why are you looking at it as a tax? It's just that on your panos you give ma'aser.
I'll tell you why it's a special tax here. Because Avraham Avinu is not planning to... No, I'll tell you what. It's
he
a
was the
special tax.
president, and he was the,
Because
and he was
here,
also the general.
if he had taken the stuff for himself, is one thing. But later the pasuk says, I'm not taking anything for myself. So, if you're not taking it for yourself, if you're taking it for himself, so you could say he has to give, like regular Maisa. But since he's not taking it for himself, why is he giving it? Elamai, if he was giving 10% of his wallet, I understand.
Right.
Then Ivan is gerech. But if you're just saying he's giving from the milchama stuff and he's not keeping it, obviously it was not regular Maisa because he was not keeping the
But
stuff.
how do we know he's not keeping it here? Over there he wasn't keeping it.
Because here it says, next pasuk, no one's going to argue with the fact. The pasuk says, next pasuk, that he didn't take even a chut ruchnal. So
That's
the
not
Rambam
for dying.
says,
Exactly, that's what Melech Stones.
That's what Meir Zadami didn't take.
Exactly.
yeah, that was the booty of the war. That's the Malchayim. He said to the Melech Sdoim, all the stuff that I got from the Milchama, I'm not going to take mechut vatzeruchnal. And that's maybe why Rashi and the Raiva don't learn like the Rambam. That he didn't give, maybe that's part of the reason why they don't think that he
He
gave.
didn't take anything.
Yeah, he says in the next pasuk, I'm not taking anything.
Yeah, but
the Rambam is going to say, he meant I'm not taking anything.
To my pocket.
I'm not taking to my pocket. But the fact that I gave to Malki Tzedek 10% is not part of what I'm taking anyway.
But why can't you say that when a person has a harvacha, even if he doesn't think it's clean money, so he wants to give it away, but maybe he should still give from that harvacha 10%.
If you
The coin has to get his share no matter what. Even if you don't want to take for yourself. Maybe
is
you
that
have
the
to,
case?
Why does he have to give to the coin b'chlal?
No, but
I'm saying, why would he have to give in to the coin at all?
if you say, you could say,
Because if he's not taking anything for himself,
that's why the Rambam, the way the Rebbe is learning in the Rambam doesn't think that this had a din of Maisa. It was a special din that because he won the war, he gave Maisa like Midian, had nothing to do with the din of Maisa Ksofim. Because the parshios, if you give me a matona, anyone, gives someone else a matona. Before, if I don't agree to take the matona, so I'm not koinhead. So would there be a svara to say that I'm chayiv to do Maisa? Probably not. So same thing here. He won the war, but he never had in mind to be koin of these nachosim.
so he had it in his possession. He did hamshocha. So why isn't that kinyan?
I don't know if he really did. Was he Moshe or was he not? He won the war.
It was on his camels.
And even if he did Mashiach, if you do Mashiach and you have in mind that Beferish you're not planning to take it, so you're not koin it. So if, like, for example,
You need
that's
kavod.
why.
You need kavod,
Right, that's why. If you ask me to do Mashiach for you, it becomes yours. I did the Mashiach. Because I in Beferish have in mind, I'm not doing it for myself, I'm doing it for you.
Who told Avraham he had to do the Mashiach?
I don't know. He decided he's doing it because he wants to save Lloyd. But Lepoel, Naniach, he did Mashiach on the Chafetzim, which maybe he did. But the Rambam, Aliba the Rebbe, the Rambam holds that Yitzchak made Maisa. Avraham never did Maisa. This was a special. It says Vital Maisa Mekoil. It wasn't Maisa. It wasn't Maisa Ksofim. It was a special Yotzim and Aklal.
He doesn't want to take this money because it's money's corrupt, right? From all these evil kings.
No, that's not. I don't know why. Because he says Veloy Tomer Anoichi Ashartis Avraham. It's like an interesting thing.
Just
I don't want the goyim to say.
I make you rich.
Yeah, the goyim let
That's
the.
in relation
I
to
don't want
him.
nothing from you.
But I know there are laws that deal with if you think that money is corrupt or stolen, you're not allowed to.
Right.
He took gifts from
to accept
Avimelech and say he didn't take it.
Right.
He took them from
Paro.
I guess that's why it couldn't have been. If it would, Avimelech was also corrupt. So apparently, that's not a
Right.
problem. But there was something there. Avraham Avinu didn't want.
And they were dead. He killed them. So it's not. Who's going to say?
Right. But
These
there
people
was
were dead.
something about Sodom that he didn't want. That
Right.
Sodom should ever be able to say that we made Avraham wealthy.
Right.
Avimelech was it, right? In Iraq, Elohim.
In a few
There
years.
was a government here, right? You
Yeah,
have
but a few,
Elohim.
they destroyed them in a few weeks. And it could be able to just a few weeks later. It was destroyed. It wasn't a long time to develop this shita.
Exactly.
But
I
why
think
See, even
there
for a
should
short
have
while, you should be.
The Torah should say, "Vayitanu matanot." The Torah don't say use the Vaitenu Matano because once you say Vaitenu Matano, that means I have something and I give you a present. Vaitenu Masako, take it. I don't want to such, I don't want to take
But it's
it.
a
I don't
shver
wanna
lashon
It's not
meiser.
mine. I don't want.
Yeah.
But the lashon of meiser is
It sounds
It
like
sounds
that.
like,
But that's-
this is I have something and I give.
That's why Rashi in Pshuta Shemikra learns Vayitalei Maisa was really Maisa, and the parshios. That's why Rashi doesn't learn that it was from the thing of the war, because then you could always tie it that was Mechi Teitzi. He's not taking it. Why? Rashi says no. Vayitalei Maisa Mikola Shaloi. He took out his wallet and he counted. I have $1,000 here. Take $100. That's what Rashi holds. And that Ivid, that's what the Rebbe says. That Ivid learns like Rashi. That's why the Ivid says Avraham Avinu b'feidish apostle. He was the first person to introduce Maisa.
But he probably never even put it in his wallet because he didn't want to even give the impression that he was kind
I'm
of.
saying his own money.
Oh, his own money.
His own money. He
Oh,
had a
no, if
wallet.
he gave from Maisa from that booty, even though he
Not from the booty, from his own money.
Right, I'm saying he did. Even though he gave away the booty, but he didn't want to give 10% of that to Avimelech.
Right.
Because then people would have said that he was kind of, and he gave him 10%.
So he gave just from his emissary
From his
own money.
own money,
From
even
his
though he
own
didn't take
money.
any of it.
Yeah.
And he wasn't chayiv in it.
Yeah, and he took out his own money.
He wasn't chayiv in it.
He wasn't chayiv, but he introduced the mitzvah of meiser. Aliba the Ravid Avraham Avinu showed us to give meiser by this thing.
By example.
By example.
Even when you're not even mechuyev in it and you're not weren't kind of anything.
Right.
Maybe that's why the sheitas that hold that Yitzchak gave first, because this wasn't a real meiser where you ever owned it. He didn't own it.
Right.
Also, maybe it's a shochet of beer because they give him bread and wine. Person give bread. Oh, bread pay for it.
He didn't bring him good meat. He didn't bring him anything that
Lechem
spectacular.
and yain.
Lechem v'yayim, one step up from lechem and mayim. He didn't bring him up as bosser v'dogim v'chom matam
Rashi says, "Kach eisonly giyam
and
ocham."
give him lechem. Right.
That he did the right.
Right.
He did what you said. He der cheres. That's what
The Rebbe has a moide de kebir apichsidus. So again, just to summarize, so Machlokes Rambam and Ravid, who was the first one to introduce Maisa to Klal Yisrael? The Ravid said it was Avraham Avinu. That's Yitan Maisa Mekoil. And the Rambam says no, it's Yitzchak Avinu. And the Rebbe says it's told in this Machlokes. What's up shot? He gave him Maisa Mekoil. He gave him Maisa Mekoil Shaloi from his own money, or Maisa from the Melchama. Apichsidus, the whole thing doesn't make sense. Like said, where did the kebir? Like what is? Who would you think will introduce Chesed and stock in the world? Avraham or Yitzchak? Pichsidus, Avraham Avinu's Chesed, Yitzchak is Gevura. So shouldn't Avraham Avinu introduce tzedakah to the world?
And he
So-
did.
So Lechlecha did, but look, it comes at Rambam and says no. Who introduced Meiser? Yitzchak. So one pshat the Rebbe says, and then the Rebbe says another pshat, a bomba. The first pshat the Rebbe says is we find in Chassidus that in Kedusha everything is biskalus. Chesed is not pure chesed. It yields a little bit to gvura. Gvura is not pure gvura. It yields a little bit to chesed. Bishama is usually gvura, but sometimes there is chumrei beishamai. I'm sorry, kule beishamai chumrei beis hillel. Sometimes beis hillel, who is usually chesed, gvura. Sometimes gvura of beishamai mixes with chesed beis hillel. The Yidden are come from the world of tikkun. And over there in the Svidus of Atzilus, they yield to each other. So we see that Avram and Yitzchak, so even though really Chesed should come from Avram, we see that over here Tzedakah was introduced to Yitzchak.
I think it's so important that it comes from Yitzchak because it's not so easy to give. So we need that Gevurah push
Right.
from the source.
But you had it from Avram because he didn't take anything.
Chesed to him came like
No.
Yeah, you had the opposite.
But he also had
Avram
Gvura.
did Gvura, he didn't
want to
take.
take.
And Yitzchak gave Chesed, he gave Tzedakah. The Rebbe has a murder to Kabir from this Gemara. The Gemara says, in older in Toises, older Meforshim ask, it says in Gemara in Chovches in Yuma that Tzloisa de Avram is Mincha. So Toises right away says, well, I don't understand. The Gemara says in the Pedaf Chav Zayin, in the Feirik 4 in the Brochas, Avram Avinu did Chachlis and Yitzchak did Mincha. I don't understand what's going on. So one Pshat Toises says that Yitzchak was metakin it, and Avram was makabel it, or the opposite. Avram was metakin. Yitzchak told people about it. But what's going on? First of all, the Rebbe has a word of pinigla, a word of the kavod. At the dinners, you're not supposed to daven in the field. You're supposed to daven in the. It's a siman pei in Shulchan Aruch, with there's 4 walls. Why does it say by Yitzchak that he went out to? Why did he do basada? The Rebbe says very posh. The Gemara says that you're not allowed to be moed halacha b'makom rabbi. And it's a terrible thing to make a halacha, to pass a halacha in front of your Rebbe. It's a terrible thing. You're not allowed to do that. It's a Gemara native. Who was the Rebbe of Yitzchak Avinu, Avraham Avinu? Is he allowed to make a takana in front of his father?
So he went out to Soda to do it.
So he went out to the Soda, Shaloi b'Makom Rabbi. And he was over there, he made a takana. He came back and he told his father, Tati, in the field, I made a takana to that mincha. So Avraham Avinu said, good idea, I like the takana. So because he was, so that's why in a way, that's what the Gemara in Bracha says, who was metakin it? Yitzchak Avinu. But Lapar, let's call it Shaloi said Avraham, because Avraham was the Rebbe, and Avraham was agreed. So therefore, that's what the Rebbe's Torah says. What's up? Pichsidus, the Rebbe says, is again, you see this idea of Iskalulus. Mincha, always you think of Shachris as the idea of Avraham Avinu, Api Kabbalah, and Mincha, because Mincha is so difficult, you're in the middle of working, and you pull yourself away, it's Gevura. But you see here Iskalulus. You know, one Yitzchak made the takana, Avraham agreed to it, v'chulu. What's one pshat?
Avraham could daven in Yitzchak time. Yitzchak can daven in Avraham time.
Yitzchak never worked.
Ah, yeah.
Sure, he had a son. He had a lot of fields.
He had a field, right?
He had a lot of behemoths.
Fakert. He had, in a way, he did more than Avraham. Avraham was, and in Yaakov only Roy Tzoin, and you see, he had the field. So it's a pella. He did more.
He made a whole sale with who was it that they was training?
With the wells.
The Roy of Avimelech, was it?
Yeah, right. It was,
Yeah.
so we see
better the garbage from this.
Yeah.
So we see, say, he had Sai, he had sheep. Sai, he had fields.
Everything.
Sai, he had
Wells.
be'eros. Yeah. So you see, he was
So he had, right.
Businessman?
Because he told, and also he also had a Gretschman. Because Esav made him a whole dinner there. So
Yeah.
he told him to make it somewhere, he must have had a Gretschman too.
Exactly.
But,
But not as big as Avraham.
no. But Yitzchak could have been bigger though than Avram. So then Bezdin that's bigger than they're allowed to pass. Even though Avram was really his Rebbe, but Yitzchak's Bezdin was
It's a
bigger.
big shaila because if it's your Rebbe, so that's why.
Because Avram only learned by himself. Yitzchak learned with the Chavrusa.
But he was his Rebbe. His father was also his Rebbe.
I know, but
So Take, if he's bigger, there's a whole place to it. But it seems like in front of the Rebbe Mamish in his Daladamas is like, it's like. But if he's very big, maybe if he goes further away, how far you have to go. Okay, that's one shot.
It makes sense that he was Baal Esek because he Mitaken Mincha is a short time.
Right.
Most of the time it's for business.
Right.
that's when your answer too.
Avraham Avinu didn't need
Right.
Mitaken Shachas.
Right.
Avram Avinu was probably davening shachas all day. He didn't have time to daven.
I'm saying Avraham could daven in Yitzchak time, right?
He's saying Avraham had more time to daven.
Yeah.
Yitzchak was a businessman, he had
But
less
not according
time.
to Chabad.
Mincha cannot
According to
daven in
Chabad, you can daven shachas all day. Mincha, you can only daven half a day.
But no, but I'm saying Yitzchak cannot daven in his Avraham time.
What?
The daven for Yitzchak Mincha, he cannot daven in the
Right.
in his Rebbe.
Right.
That's his tikkun.
Right.
Only later.
One shot. Second shot, Zog the Rebbe, like this. So firstly, the Rebbe says the first shot is nice, but parshios, the takana that Yitzchak would make would be a inyan which is mamash gevura. And if the Torah tells you a takana that Avraham Avinu made would be mamash chesed. And also this idea of ma'isa of a similar bonim. So Chassidus said it means it gives the koyach to the children to be parshios. Avraham Avinu is going to teach you something of chesed, and Yitzchak is going to teach you something of gevura. True that this idea of iskalus, but it's so unusual. This because at the end, Taka, when the Rambam says, he says Avraham was metaken, got the mitzvah of Mila, and he was metaken Shachris, Yitzchak, Meiser, and Mincha, and Yaakov, Gidanosha, and Ma'ariv. So the Rebbe has a second shot, Moira de Kipshat. What's tzedakah? What's the idea of tzedakah? It's similar to the Chav Dalet Matnas Kuna, that the Chinuch says that the whole idea of giving 10% is l'man das shehakol shaloi, to know that the Eibishter belongs, everything belongs to the Eibishter. All Dalet Chav Dalet Matnas Kuna is the same thing really. That I prove that everything belongs to the Eibishter. First thing is born, wow, no, it belongs to the Eibishter. First son, wow, my first son, the Eibishter. The Reishis Ageis, the Eibishter. Everything the Eibishter. And then also 10%, that besides that Chav Dalet Matnas Kuna, 10% goes to the Levi. Why? Because everything, Hashem Ha'aretz, everything belongs to the Eibishter. So it's not me. I have a partner in my business, the Eibishter. I give him his profit, 10%. What's the difference, however, between the Chav Dalet Matnas Kuna and Ma'aser? So there's two major differences, three actually. On the one hand, by all Chav Dalet Matnas Kahuna, or most, there's a specific thing. The Bechor belongs to the Kohen. The Zroya L'chaim Keva belongs to the Kohen. The Reishis Agez, there's something specific. By Meiser, it isn't something specific. Before you take Meiser, you have 10 bags of grain. Which one belongs to the Levi? I don't know. You decide.
10%.
It doesn't matter. On the other hand, by many of the mountains Kahuna, Minatorah, you can give a drop. Like Truma, you can give 1 drop. Chacham said, no, you have to give Ein Yof, Ein Beinani, you have to give more. But even when you give, you could do Mu'umid. But Ma'aser has to be exact. You have the Abisha says it's to be 10%, and you're not supposed to be Ma'aser Mu'umid. You're not, I'll give a little extra to the Levi. There's a certain amount. And another big difference is that all the Chav Dalet Matnas Kahuna more or less are Kedusha. It has to be eaten Ein Echel Tzoli, it has to be eaten with Chardel, it has to be eaten Derech Gedula, Shulchan Gavoya. There is a certain amount of sanctity here. But even when it's, like a Bechor that has a Balmum, you're not allowed to sell it B'shuk, there's a certain amount of Kedusha to every one of the Chav Dalet Matnas Kahuna. But Meiser is Chulin. It's Mom and Levi. It's nothing. If you're a Levi, I give you the Meiser. You can give it back to me, and I can eat it. It's nothing. It's not. It's just a tax. So Azoy. Where do we see the emes of Balabatishkeit of the Eibishter? When you look at the Chav Dalet Matnas Kahuna, in Chatchila they're holy. The Bechor is right as soon as it's born, it's holy. It's. But when this is a thing of Meiser, it's Chulin. And yet, we still the Eibush as a Balabas. Even in stuff which is mundane stuff, Chulin, still it's the Eibush stuff, and you don't know what it is, but I have to take, it's not like, it's anywhere in my Nechosim, even though it's Chulin, really it turns out that I'm the Eibush as my partner. Now, what's the difference between Avraham and Yitzchak? Avraham brings Kedusha down. Yitzchak picks the world up. That's why Avraham Avinu was giving the guests to eat and taught them about the Eibishter. Yitzchak, you don't find that he had a guest house. What was he doing? He was digging wells. Chassidus says, what's digging wells? You're not pouring water into the wells. You're digging the sand, taking away the sand and the rocks, and you say, hey, right here, there's ready water. The avoid of Avraham Avinu was to bring God down into the world. The Yitzchak picked up the world to bring it to the Eibishter. To be Megala that really there's fresh water right here. There's Mayim Chaim that's a kosher, the best Lux mikveh right over here. We don't have to bring it down from the heaven. We pick it up from the earth. So Avraham Avinu is Amshocha. Yitzchak is Halot, to pick up. Where do we see the main thing of Halot to pick up? By Maisris. Chav Dalet Matnas Kahuna is to bring down the Kedusha. The Kedusha Schal becomes holy. But where do we see Halot? That Chulin gets picked up. That is mainly by Meiser. That's why Chav Dalet Matnas Kahuna goes to a Kohen. Kohen is the idea of bringing down Kedusha. Levi is Gvura, going up. Gvura is the elevator going up. That's why Yitzchak was mataken the idea of Meiser. Meiser, Yitzchak is Gvura. Gvura is to pick up, the power to pick up. Gevura and Levi, Kohanim were Chesed. Leviim was Gevura. That's why Kohanim, they could have long hair, it's very good. Leviim, if they take a haircut, because Leviim is Gevura. So that's why the Chav Dalet Matnas Kahuna goes to Kohanim, which is to bring holiness comes down in this world. It becomes the Kedusha Schal on these things. Leviim, they don't get Chav Dalet Matnas Kahuna. They get Maisris, which is to pick up. That's why Yitzchak, which is the idea is to pick up the vel to bring it close to the Eibush, to Allah, he was mataken Meiser. Because Meiser is really the idea of picking up. That's why by Avraham Avinu, why do we find by Avraham that was a different type of Meiser? What happened over there? There was a war. Who went out in the war? Avraham Avinu. Who else? Rashi says Eliezer. And Rashi says that no one else. Right. They were just sitting on the Kalim. And Eliezer L'shmoyna Asa Rabbeinu Oimru Eliezer Levade Hoya V'minyin Gematria Shel Shmoy. Could you imagine 2 men are running and there's a whole army of 4 kings. They won over the 5 kings. L'idiyach how strong they are. And Avraham Avinu is throwing sand, and killing them all. So that's teva or that's nes. That's
So he
that's
didn't walk.
nes.
He didn't walk anything on.
That's where kedusha is coming down.
He didn't
When
walk.
they
One
show
second, when you walk on something, you give-
when there's a nes, that's not halal. That's some shacha. That's not pick. That's a nes. What's a nes? And that's some shacha. The Eibishter comes down from heaven. He says, you know what? Baba Mai says, I'm the balabas. Who's the balabas? Kol Deloim is the balabas. Elam is the balabas. Ich bin the balabas, says the Eibishter. Take a handful of sand, throw it, and kill him.
And one man could take down 4 kings.
Gandik.
That's already.
So that's not halal memata lamaila. That's some shachim memaila lamata. That's bringing down. The Eibishter is showing. True. When a miracle happens, it's not just something out of the world. It shows us that the Eibush is the balabos on the world. What's the point of a nes? The point of a nes is to teach us.
To open the eyes and see what
Same
was
one that created the world.
Yeah. What's the gewalt of a nes? We say nisim from tzaddikim. We say a nes from the Rebbe. So this month of Shabbos, a story. What is the story? A guy in Montreal. Doctor, the Rebbe says the doctor, you do what the doctor needs to do, and I'll do the Rebbe job. And then
open miracle.
And yeah, so what's the idea of this nes, and why is it so important to tell it and tell this nes? So the reason it's important to tell the nes, because this shows us that the Eibishter is Doav the Welt. So the whole everything is the Eibishter. So, but still, a nes is where this is Hamshocha. The Eibishter shows that he's coming and he's the Balabos. The whole kunz, that's Taka Avraham Avinu, right? But Avraham Avinu is Hamshocha. But the kunz of Meiser is Aloha. It's Chulin. And we pick it up. It's not designated. It's, it's that one. You don't decide. That's holy. It's not up to you. The Bechor is holy. If you call it holy or not, that's holy.
He didn't do anything.
No, but Meiser is not that way. It's Chulin. Even after you pick it up at Chulin, you give it to the Levi. And who do you give it to Levi? You don't give it to the Kohen, which is Yisach Chesed, which is Gvura, which is Aloha, to pick it up. So that idea of Aloha, that we didn't see by Avraham Avinu. By Avraham Avinu we saw he won a war. Good. That's the Hamshocha. Kedusha comes down. But where do we see the real union of Meiser, which is Hashem Ha'oretz U'Maloi? That not only in those few moments when the Eibishter makes a miracle, that all of a sudden I realize that the whole Welt belongs to the Eibishter. But there's no miracle. That Yitzchak planted a field. And before the miracle happened, they made an estimation to know how much Meiser to give. And then all of a sudden it was 100 times more. When they made the estimation, they didn't know there's going to be a nes. So he was Zoydim Bedima, Berinu Yiktzoydo, he was a very hard worker. And still, he felt that the Eibishter is the Balabos in the Welt. Not when there was a nes. When it was Teva, pure Teva. So that's the kunz of Meiser. That's the idea of giving tzedakah.
And Avram had guests, and he was being Megayer them. Like Avram Megayer's had a notion, Sarah's had a notion. Isn't that hello?
That's a lot. I hear. I don't know.
That was his main avoid, really.
But to make the guy Anoshim Anoshim.
Av Hamon Goyim.
But the answer is, I think, that because where did the Goyim go? Those that became Gadim. It seems
They
they
didn't
didn't
become
last.
Jews, right?
They disappeared.
No, they didn't disappear. But they didn't become Jews.
They didn't become Jews. Elamai, because that shows you it wasn't a pure Allah. Would have been an absolute Allah, they would have stayed.
They came for the food. It
They came
was
for the
free.
Nisim. They came for the
They came for
Nisim.
the food. It was free. They came.
Like they say by the market, the Nisim were falling off the table.
Exactly.
No one bothered bending up. By Avram Avinu, they came and they got a malted, but they came to them.
Exactly. They did bend down to get the Nissa.
Exactly.
They bend down to
Right.
get the Nissa. It's not Moed the Kamaisa from Moshe Leib Sosov. He was a Talmud. It's Sosov, yes. So he was a Talmud of Baal Shem Tov. And it was the Mendel of Kosov, the first Kosov Rebbe. He was a son of a Talmud of Baal Shem Tov. He learned by the Moshe Leib. And so they say that he once was traveling to his Rebbe. And it was before Shabbos. So it's Thursday. And he stops at a town close to his Rebbe. He's coming to his Rebbe and he stops at an inn. And Balabas says, I'm sorry, I can't give you tea. But he can sleep here. So he sleeps there. If he don't eat, he'll get a good night's sleep. But even that, he couldn't get a good night's sleep. Why? Because he hears Nabach kids are crying, they're starving. So in the morning, he asks the Balabos what's going on. So he says, there's Gehakta herring. He has nothing, and he's going to get kicked out of this place. The portage he's not paying, and the kids are starving. He has nothing. He doesn't know what to do. So the Mendel Kosev has a heart of gold, but can geld hotanish. So how can he help to see it? But he say he's not going to leave the town before he helps him. He goes outside. He looks around. He sees that there's a Yid traveling. He'd say, "Oh, where are you going? You're going to the Rebbe?" "Oh, come, I'm also going." "I'm not going with you." "Why not going to come with you?" He said, "Unless you're going to help this, there's a Yid here that needs your help." So Tzedak, "Okay, I'll give it." No. "I'm not coming with you unless you give him 100 ruble." He says, "Are you kidding? It's a mitzvah tzedakah." So he says, "Listen, Rebbe, you never know what's going to be in the future. I'm telling you, it's kedai for you to give the geld." So he didn't know that this was the future Rebbe. This was the Mendel of Kosovo, but he saw that this guy was, and he's twisting his hand. He said, "Okay, let me go see." He had Takar Achmanis. He comes, he sees the Kindle starving. So he lays down the geld in Kakosov, and before they leave, the Mendel of Kosovo says to the innkeeper, "Please take out a notebook and write down the name of this person that's helping you, because maybe one day you'll be able to repay the favor." Kachava. That years later he became a Rebbe, the Mendele, and a Yid came, a beggar came, and as soon as the beggar came to ask for tzedakah, he said, "You? I'm not going to help you. Someone's going to help you." He says, "Come here." Take a piece of paper and he writes 5 words: "Time to pay back the debt." He crumbles it up. He says, you go in this town, and you give it to the Gvir in town, and don't worry, he'll give you much better he'll help you out much better. So he goes to the Gvir, and he opens up the piece of paper. Time to pay back the debt. What's the pshat? He's thinking, what's meant the Rebbe? And then it chapped. He chapped the meant. A few days later, the 2 people show up by their Mendele, and the Yid comes and he says, "Here's a book. All the business I've done since my life. I was the beggar. I was the poor man in the inn, and Baruch Hashem, after I got this 100 ruble, I was able to establish myself, and I became a gvir. It turns out that the person that helped him out he became poor. Yeah. So he says, "But now you said it's time to pay back the debt. I don't know how to pay back. So here is all the cheshboinus. You tell me how much to pay." So the Mendele goes, he flips through, takes the whole booklet, and at the end he says, "This is what you have to pay." He gave exact dollar amount, ruble amount, and the 2 men walked out, and they came. One was poor, one man was rich, and they walked out. They were both rich. And then he understood when he was yet rich, that he was wise to listen to the advice of this younger man.
Everything turned
Because it was a galgal achayzeh. So this is the special mitzvah. This mitzvah, even though really we learn it from Avraham Avinu. Laman hashiyitzava bona v'zbeis ha'acharav v'shamru derech Hashem lasas mishpat u'tzedakah. So even though really it's inyan of chesed, but there's also, which is hamshocha, bringing kedusha down, but also tzedakah b'ikar is to pick up. That's why the pasuk said tzedakah teroimim goy. You think, really, when you think you're giving, but really, if tzedakah picks you up. You think you're giving away, but really the tzedakah picks you up. Not always do we see it right away, but Le'ebisha says, "B'charuni ba'osabazoy." There's one thing the Le'ebisha says we're allowed to test him, which is in the midst of tzedakah, because the ikar in tzedakah is not hamshacha. The ikar in tzedakah teroima. Tzedakah picks us up.
Shkoyah.